the original workshop PowerPoint. So if you recall, we did the dominoes, which was an opportunity to really provide opportunities for oral language production for ELLs, and particularly equal opportunities too. So rather than a group project in which maybe one or two students may tend to dominate and shyer students or less proficient students may not participate quite so freely, this is one which is structured and gives everybody the opportunity to talk. And we did it for introductions and challenges, but that activity can just be adapted to just about any discussion prompt. We did the jigsaw reading, do you remember, when there were the expert groups? Yes. And again, yes. And did you, can you remember which one you did?
I do not remember what I read. I remember doing it.
Was that the first time you'd done that type of activity?
No, I've done jigsaws before.
Oh, okay. So you're familiar
they
with it.
work well, in my opinion, with people who are more fluent than my students. It's very difficult for people that are lower level fluency to do something like that because the communication is so difficult for them.
Have you tried it with very limited text and graphic organizers which really direct them as to the information to share?
No, I haven't. I did the Four Corners one, and it worked really well.
Oh, it did?
Yes, it did. It worked really well. We were doing comparative adjectives, which is rather confusing usually, and I just gave them cards with different adjectives on them, and they had to find someone who had a card similar to theirs. And we had already introduced the different kinds of spelling rules and using more and ER and the irregular. And so I had Four Corners. And they thought that was great fun because they had to find their partner and go to one of the corners. And they had to do more thinking because I didn't give them this is the ER corner or the more corner. They had to figure out who was like them and go to a corner. And that worked really well.
So you were finding someone like them was finding someone else with a ER or a EST or with a more or most?
Yes, we did. First we did it with just comparatives. And they had we had more and ER and IER and the irregular good better. And they had to find someone who had a word that had the same style as theirs. And it did promote a lot of conversation and a lot of thinking about English and comparing and understanding, words that were different or words that were similar.
Good.
Yeah.
So the students really were talking to each other and producing language rather than just showing their card to each other and
absolutely.
doing a silent matching. Well, that's great. So did they enjoy the physical activity too of just kind of getting up and moving around?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, always.
And do you plan to do the activity again, to adapt the activity?
Yes. A few days later, I set up the same thing with the superlatives, but this time I labeled the corners, EST, IEST, most, and the irregular. And it wasn't as much fun for them and did not work as easily as the first time where they had to just find their partner. So I thought it was interesting, the two different approaches. And the second approach was not as enjoyable for them.
Why do you think that was? Because it was confusing, or
it may have confused them compared to what we had done a week earlier. But I think the more structure of identifying the four corners, and they were not in the same place as the corners were the week before. You know, like I didn't have more or most in the same place where more was. And so they had to juggle their thinking a little bit, but it seemed to work better just letting them find their partner and go to a corner. And I can't say why. And it may have been confusing because I did them two different ways.
Sometimes that can get confusing if activities are changed or modified, but probably the next time you do it, then they'll be more acquainted with it, and we'll find the process a little easier. So the first time you did it, you didn't label a corner then, they just went to any corner.
Yes.
So there was no categorization or pattern involved into which corner they went into.
No, they just had to find a partner that had the same style of word as theirs.
So the second time you did it,
after they were in their corners, I walked around with the cards labeled more and ER and IER and irregular, and I gave them the cards.
Okay.
And they introduced themselves. We are the ER group, you know.
Yes.
Like
so
that.
So in a sense, the second time you made the task more complicated.
Yeah.
Which may be why that additional step made it maybe a little less smooth. So, but as I say, the more students get used to these activities, the easier that process will become.
Yes.
So they'll understand, I need to go to a corner which identifies or categorizes the type of language I'm using. Well, great. Have you thought about if you will adapt it to a more workplace context or scenario in the future?
Well, yeah. Hospital work, what are some different jobs in a hospital? And they could, and office work and factory work and outside work. And, they'd have to find where their card, the career that they have on their card, would have to go to the right corner. And yeah.
Okay.
And it helps them relate the career on their card with where it would occur. Is it an office?
Yes.
Is it a factory? Is it a medical? Or is it something where people work outside?
Right.
And, that's rather literal and simple, but that's where you start.
Yes. Well, I agree. Part of this activity was one of the series of activities that is about identifying future pathways. So it really is opening up students' eyes to the possibilities of different jobs in different kinds of environments. And you're right, you start, it doesn't have to be complicated or very detailed at the beginning, but it's starting that process of thinking about different kinds of workplaces.
Yes.
So, yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Have you tried any of the others or thought about trying any of the others?
No, not really. We got into the end of the year and it was crunch time and I just really didn't get to some of the others.
When do you start up again? In the fall?
In August. We'll be back in classes the second week in August.
Okay.
So we start early.
Yes. That is early.
Yeah.
Are there any that you would be interested in trying, that you would like to talk through or see? I see we have, do we have Marilyn or Paula on audio yet? No, I don't think so. Okay. Did you, would you like to take the opportunity to ask me if you have any questions about the other strategies and how you can adapt them, or?
The jigsaws work well. I haven't tried it, but I can see where it would work well, like with classified ads, where if there were, a bunch of different classified ads, 4 or 5 different ads, they would go and learn what was in that classified ad really well, and then be able to take it back to their group and explain it and teach it to their group. And it's a way of finding a job.
A variation of that idea, actually, that you could do is if you had a classified ad. Classified ads have a lot of details of, what the job is, sometimes the salary range, how to apply, all those kind of details. What you could do is you could create 2 versions. It's a variation of the jigsaw, but you create 2 versions of the ad where each version A and version B have incomplete information. So A and B together contain the whole ad, and then students have to pair up and they have to ask each other questions to get the missing information.
Yes.
So
yes.
Where is the interview? How do I apply? Those kind of things. And
sure.
It promotes closer reading for detail of those ads, but also it promotes that oral language production, practicing the kind of question formation and answering.
That's so hard for them. Yeah.
It is hard. It is hard. And so that's a kind of variation with the ads that might be an interesting one to try out with your students.
Yeah.
So it's kind of working in pairs. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would recommend that one. Have you done that kind of activity before, that variation?
Yes, I have. And I had 4 different classified ads, and they broke up into teams, so there were 4 teams. And they had to learn and memorize their classified ad, and each person in the team had a number. And I had a spinner, and when the spinner landed on that number and that team, that person had to stand up and explain something from the advertisement. And so they didn't know when it was going to be their turn.
So they had to listen and pay attention.
Yeah, and they had to learn from each other.
And then did you have, were the other students, while they were listening, were they kind of recording the information to be?
Like writing it down, you mean?
Yes.
Not really, because in their book there were the 4 classified ads. So they could see the ad that the other team was explaining. But that would be a really good idea to put it on a card or a couple of cards, and the other teams would not know what was their ad, and that would be very good. They would have to ask questions. So I like that the other teams wouldn't know what their advertisement was. That would work. Yes.
Another variation you could try on that too is to have, imagine that, do a kind of simulated telephone conversation where one student was interested in applying for the job and they were calling someone from the company to find the information. So the person with the ad is representative of the company and would have to give the information about how to apply or the name of the job and the other person. So they're practicing telephone skills, again, that kind of questioning and for detail. So That would be another way of doing it.
And that is so important, because some ads say, call Dave and leave a phone number. And they've got to figure out how to do that and get the information they need. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And even practicing leaving a message is a good one. It's a good activity. And even if you actually recorded people and they heard their message back again, then
that would work. Yes. Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
I see we have a few more people who have joined. Does anybody else have a welcome? And does anybody else have a strategy they'd like to share, or questions or comments about any of the instructional strategies we discussed at the workshop? No? Okay.
Jane, just as a reminder too, if you're an attendee and you've joined and for some reason you cannot speak to us through the audio format, you'll see that there is a questions section. You can post a question or a comment, and we'd love to have your feedback if that's available to you. So take advantage of this opportunity to have Jane address your questions or thoughts about any of the strategies that she's covering. Thanks.
Well, Donna, while we wait and see if any questions or comments come in through chat rather than audio, did you have any other questions about these strategies or comments or anything you'd like to share?
I can't think of anything. If I think of something, I'll, speak up. But
okay. Well, I'm glad you've tried some of them and have ideas of how to adapt the others too. So good luck in August, just trying some of them out. And I recommend everyone persevere too, because as you're from your experience with the four corners, sometimes things may not go quite as smoothly as you anticipated. But don't give up, because there are two issues going on. One is figuring out the process of the activity, and the other is dealing with the language, and that can be a lot for students to deal with in one go. So again, we talked about modeling in the workshop. So model the activity on your own if you can, or with stronger, more proficient students, and then you'll find that with your four corners activity, for example, if you do it again, they'll have done it once and have more of a sense of the process and what's involved. So persevere and keep doing them. If there aren't any more questions or comments, if they come through though, we can go back. Let's move forward and have a look at some of the additional resources that I wanted to bring to your attention. When we talked about Keisha shares, questions, comments, so additional resources. Before I go on though, I wanted to remind you that the last handout in your workshop resources, number 13, was a list of references and resources that are connected to workforce instruction for our English language learners. And I strongly encourage you to I know you've all been busy with kind of end of year activities, but if you get a break over the summer, then just dig out handout number 13 and just have a look through. And there are some great resources and information to go to for further information. But I did dig out a few more, so I wanted to share those with you. The first one is preparing English learners for work and career pathways. And this is the ESL Pro resource that I think I plugged quite a bit at the workshop. I didn't share any of the resources, but I did talk about it. Has anybody had the chance to have a look at that resource? I'll assume that you're not familiar with it, so I'll just talk you through, but essentially it's a recent publication on links. There are actually 3 resources, one connected to digital literacy, one increasing rigor to ELLs, and another preparing English learners for work and career pathways. It's a great resource full of ideas. I encourage you to have a look. There is a brief, which is an 8-page document that just kind of gives you an overview of the issues in preparing English learners for work and career pathways, suggests models, and talks about contextualizing instruction. There's also an interactive self-paced online module, which is for you to take a look at, and again, it gives more ideas for career and technical training. And I'll go onto links in a moment so you can actually see what they look like. There's the practice-oriented resource, which actually 2 of the activities that we talked about in the workshop, the 4 corners and the single question strategy, come from this practice-oriented resource. It's an 80-page document, and it has lots of resources, lots of ideas and places to go for additional information. It's essentially the key areas are identifying future pathways, which is what the single question survey and the 4 corners were geared towards. Learning to learn, developing workplace and training vocabulary, demonstrating workplace soft skills, and problem solving are the kind of key areas in that document. And then there's another link too to open educational resources that can be used with your adult learners. And it's great because these resources are specifically aimed at adult ed. There's a lot of K-12 resources out there, but these are adult ed resources. So, and I remember there was varying comfort levels with links. This is the link that goes to the links website, Literacy Information and Communication System. This is the landing page for the ESL Pro resource, with the link to the brief, the interactive self-paced module, the practice resource, and the open educational resources. Now, with links, at the top here, we have a learning portal, and I just wanted to draw your attention to that because these are the online modules that you can access. You do need to set up a free account with links. It's an easy process and it is free, but once you have that, these are the modules. There are a set of 5 career pathway modules that you can see here, and these are not specifically aimed at English language learners, but they will be relevant to your English language learners. Some activities or ideas may need additional scaffoldings or support, but it's definitely this, is a strong career pathway focus, which was the focus of our workshop. Then if we scroll down, we have here the links ESL Pro Module 3, Preparing English Learners for Work and Career Pathways. So I encourage you to come back, set up an account if you don't have one, and just work your way through. There's, you can take a look, open them up at your own leisure. You don't necessarily need to complete the whole module. No one's going to be grading you. They're there. They're resources for you, for your own professional development. And then the other aspect was the open education, open community of resources. And this link is in the PowerPoint. I just skipped that little step. But if you look through, these are all the resources. Lesson plans, you have a lot, 108 related to adult ESL, and then we have ones that are specifically related to workforce readiness, and they are various lesson plans. Again, these may not be specifically directed at English language learners, but there will be ideas and resources there that you could adapt for your English language learners. So I encourage you to take a look at that ESL Pro resource, the Preparing English Learners for Work and Career Pathways. Any questions about that resource? No? Feeling comfortable with it? Another resource I encourage you to look at is a video presentation. 15 minutes long, and it's actually by the author of the ESL Pro Preparing English Learners for Work and Career Pathways, Heidi Wrigley. And it's a 15-minute video where she discusses work and career to contextualize instruction and important changes in the field. So she kind of gives that perspective piece of what happened, has happened in the past and how things have changed more recently. What is contextualized instruction? What does it look like? And she also talks about a project that she was involved in South Texas on developing career pathways at South Texas Community College. So it's an interesting video. It's 15 minutes, and again, I encourage you to just, when you've got a spare 15 minutes, just click on the link, and it will take you through to that video. Another resource is the Toolkit for ESL Practitioners Supporting Skilled Immigrants. And I know that we talked about this. There is too many, there's a high percentage of the immigrant population are in low-skilled work than the native English-speaking population. We talked about this. But for many of those English language learners, they do actually have skills or licenses or professions from their home countries. And do you remember we talked about an organization called Upwardly Global that helps them? This resource is a toolkit which addresses the challenge of serving the skilled immigrant population and introduce some solutions to the specific issues that they face. So again, click on the link. You will come to each of the resources in the links resource collection, and I'll talk through the resource collection a little. Has this this kind of landing page, if you like, which gives the background information. The resource is here through a PDF. I have actually downloaded it already, and you can see that this is quite a detailed document for our skilled immigrants, profiles and barriers, critical incidences and exercises, adult ESL classroom strategies and lesson ideas, program models, and advocating for skilled immigrants. So I encourage you to take the moment to access that and download it and look through for additional resources, ideas, and activities that really connect to the needs of your particular learners.
Jane, it looks like we've got two questions. One is, I have a question. Students learn the language by writing. However, it becomes repetitive for both instructors and students. How can an instructor best use of a game for the class?
Best use a game or a game?
How can an instructor
a game.
best use of a game for the class?
I'm guessing that's game as in some kind of fun activity, or one thing, particularly in writing is hard and it's a difficult skill for students to develop, and one that I think often students get discouraged by. So something that would be good, a good activity is a kind of collaborative writing project in which maybe could be connected to some kind of research project, or, I mean, if we put it in the workplace, let's imagine an extension of, do you remember the Four Corners activity where we had jobs that are outside, jobs that are in an office, jobs that are kind of in a mechanical or engineering, or jobs in a healthcare profession. If we took an extension of that activity, it would be maybe sending students off to find out a little bit about the different jobs that maybe are in the medical field, and then a writing project may be just a little kind of written piece that summarizes opportunities and summarizes the results of that project. And rather than make that just individual writing assignment, bring it together and kind of publish a little resource. That's just an idea. One, it's collaborative. It encourages that interaction, that team working, which are important soft skills. The writing, it gives a clear focus for the writing. Students kind of enjoy working together and that collaborative piece and supporting each other in their writing. And you could also follow the writing process of brainstorming for ideas, getting that initial draft together as a group, editing and revising the document, and then that publishing piece. So,
and Jane, one other question was, Emily says, I remember you mentioned an organization that translates transcripts and diplomas from other countries. Can you remind us of that?
I don't specifically remember that, but I suspect that it's the Upwardly Mobile organization that works a lot in working with skilled immigrants and immigrants that have professional licenses in their home countries, and really kind of getting them, helping them establish themselves in those professions in the U.S. And off the top of my head, I suspect that's where that connection was. I don't know if they work with anybody or only in specific states, but I would go back to the Upwardly Mobile resource. Otherwise, there may be organizations in Florida that could help. Any other questions? Okay. But actually connected to that, I don't know whether this resource, the toolkit resource, would answer that question, but it might well. Program and resource guide advocating for skilled immigrants. You never know, it might have ideas of how to get documents translated and resumes translated in there. Okay, another resource, promoting learner transitions to post-secondary educational work, developing academic readiness skills from the beginning. One thing we talked about quite a bit was developing those soft skills, which, if you recall, they're the skills that are across the board in all kinds of different workplaces, and are communication, clear communication skills, team working skills, that collaborative piece, problem solving, decision making, and these were identified as important in the process, which led to the development of the College and Career Readiness Standards. So developing academic readiness, which really does focus on problem-solving, decision-making, clear communication skills is an important aspect of workforce development. So this might be a resource that you want to go back to. And then, of course, connected to this are the College and Career Readiness Standards, which really do get our students ready for workplace demands, and not workplace demands in family-sustaining jobs.
Jane, I just have the,
yes.
Excuse me for interrupting.
Not at all.
I have the Upwardly Mobile website here. It's upwardlyglobal.org. And it says that it does exactly what you said.
It does?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for checking that very much. So, Emily, I encourage you to upwardlyglobal.org and look at the services that they provide there for the translation. Thank you, Donna.
I'm going to have to
okay.
scoot out of here. I have a doctor's appointment. I apologize.
Not at all. Thank you so much for joining us.
Okay, you have a good day.
Thank you, and good luck.
Bye-bye. Have a wonderful...
Bye-bye. Thanks. The last resource that I wanted to mention was the change agent, and we had a discussion. We had another webinar this morning, and some of the participants had heard of it, but I don't think anyone had subscribed to it. I don't know how familiar you are with it, but it's produced by the New England Learning and Resource Center, and I just did a look. They have theme-based issues, and this particular issue from March 2013 is based on workplace readiness and getting jobs, definitions of good job. And I don't know if you know about the change agent, but it has a strong student voice. Many of the articles are written by students and include their success stories, some of their issues. So if you do happen to subscribe to the change agent, I recommend that you go back and take a look at this. If you don't, I think it's $20 a year to subscribe to this resource, and it's, as I said, it has theme-based resources, and this one will have lots of interesting articles related to workplace instruction. That was the last resource that I wanted to share with you. And again, I encourage you to go back and look at that last handout too, because that has a lot of great resources there. Any questions on any of those resources? Comments? Ones you're familiar with? I'm getting feedback, but I'm not sure if that was a question. I strongly encourage you to just try different techniques and different ideas to use some of these resources. And as I said before, persevere. Sometimes these activities may be set up or are difficult to set up, but once students kind of get used to the process of it, then they're familiar with the process and can really focus on the language and focus on the content. But there are a lot of great resources. I encourage you to use them, and I wish you a lot of luck in developing your students for workplace readiness.
Thank you so much, Jane. Those were some really good extra resources that you shared with everyone, and I enjoyed hearing how some of these activities are being implemented in the classroom.
Great. Good. There's a lot of information out there. Sometimes it can be overwhelming, but small steps. Just focus on one or two activities at a time and take it from there.
Sounds like
Have
a
a
good
great
plan.
week.
Well, I don't think we have any more questions or comments. So, or is that another question coming in? No. So my contact information is there. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions on any of these strategies or have issues accessing any of these resources. But again, I strongly encourage you to go back to links and really explore the wealth of opportunities that of resources that are available there. And thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Jane.
you so much.
Thank you.